Welcome. Welcome to Community of Christ with the Shenandoah Congregation in San Antonio, Texas. Community of Christ is a welcoming and loving faith community. We proclaim Jesus Christ and promote communities of joy, hope, love, and peace. Please take a moment and like our video, subscribe to our channel so you don't miss anything, and comment to tell us where you are joining us from. Keep our contact details and share with us how we can minister to your needs. Find more information at www.seaofchristsa.org. If you would like to view past services, follow this link on our website. We welcome you, we acknowledge you, and we love you. Shalom.
And now I welcome Jim Burdick to the podium to bring us the morning message. Jim?
Good morning. I'm going to do a little housekeeping. Those stick out too far, and I'm afraid I'm going to hit them with my knees and knock them down, and money goes out in there. Horrible situation. Well, greetings. This is the first Sunday of the autumn season. Every day, daylight will be shorter than it was the day before, and the nighttime will be longer than the night before until December 21st. And on December 21st, that'll be the shortest day of the year, they call it. And then it turns around and goes the other way, and days become longer. So if you're like me and you like the warmer weather, December 21st is when the time of sunlight will change, and then it will start getting warmer in springtime. In fact, the daylight, the weather, prevailing winds, and many other things will be changing as we inexorably move toward winter. That's not, to me, that's not the most fun time of year. But we are also moving closer to spring day by day, and that's much better. So I'll have to keep that in mind. I apologize. My glucose must be doing something it doesn't like. I can't turn that off. That's considered a life-saving thing, and you cannot turn it off. And so I apologize. So anyway, good morning today, and it's wonderful to be with you. Let us worship a loving Creator who walks with us on our daily path and loves us so deeply. And I'm glad that actually Carol White got a lot of homework to do assigned by the children. When they ask questions, she says, I'll have to find out. And that's going to be something we're going to talk about a little bit today. Our theme today is the life that is life. Not all life is life. And this comes from the 19th verse of 1 Timothy in the 6th chapter. And when I study a scripture for a message or a sermon, I like to study not just the reading of the scripture itself, but the context and additional sources. History helps, opinions of experts help. There are scripture commentaries, there are lectures, there are essays. All of these help. And there are many helpful sources of information to help us understand the scripture stories that came on those pieces of parchment and the oral traditions and so forth, and went into the building of the books of the Bible. And the books of the Bible are, at one time, a book was itself standalone. And then when they put them into a compendium, all the books together became the books of the Bible. There are many sources that we can study. An additional one that I've been using for some months now is called the Bible Project. Why would they call it that? Well, it's about the Bible. And it can be found at BibleProject.com. It's free, so don't think you're going to have to pull out your credit card. And it has many lectures, videos, interviews, and such. And it also has a unique group of animated readings and explanations or context of scriptures. These aren't necessarily complete, but they're good. They're more than what many of us already know. So anything that helps us understand more is good. These are not complete, but then most of the translations of the Bible miss some of the things that these resources don't necessarily include. So they're not perfect, but they are quite good, and I recommend them to you. Again, BibleProject.com. And I'm going to show you one snippet today, and maybe you'll say, hey, I've never seen the Bible look like that. And no, you haven't probably, and it'll be good. So in future Sundays, if you see a theme that looks interesting, you can go to BibleProject.com before church, like on Saturday or Friday, and watch that context of that scripture. So when you come in Sunday and you hear somebody like me talk about a scripture, you already have some context of what that scripture might be about and what its meaning might be. And by the way, if you're planning to speak and would like some help accessing and downloading your scripture, let me know. But please don't wait till Saturday for a Sunday sermon, okay? I'd be glad to help you. And I'd like us to sit back and watch a 4-minute snippet of my experience with Bible Project for today.
Scripture passage, it's customary to spend a moment looking at the passage and try to understand the context involved. Today, I want to show you an online source for presenting context for scriptures. This is a short, sort of like a short study guide. This is not a perfect source, but it is a good source. It's a free source. These are generally pretty sound ways to look at most scriptures, and I recommend this free source for everyone to use as a reference. If you want to use this when you speak, I will gladly help you. Just don't call and ask on Saturday for the sermon the next day. Happy face. Let's watch.
Paul's first letter to Timothy. Paul spent many years traveling about and starting new churches, and he developed a large team of co-workers in this mission. Timothy was one of these. Paul was once in the city of Lystra, and he met Timothy's faithful mother and grandmother, and he was impressed by Timothy's passion and devotion to Jesus. And so Paul mentored him for many years and eventually started sending him on missions to different churches. And so when Paul got word about a group of leaders who infiltrated the influential church in Ephesus, they were spreading incorrect views about Jesus and what it means to follow him, he sent Timothy to confront these leaders and restore order to this church. So after Timothy arrived there, Paul sent this letter to follow up and instruct him on how to fulfill this mission. The letter has a really cool design. There's an opening and closing commission to Timothy to go confront these leaders and their bad theology. And then these surround two large central sections that are full of really practical instructions about the problems that Timothy faced in the Ephesian church. And then finally, all these sections are linked together or concluded by a series of 3 poems that each exalt. Paul then addresses a problem among Christian slaves. Some of them were disrespecting their Christian masters. And so, yes, the gospel creates equality among Jesus' followers. However, Paul thinks that equality needs to be implemented in a strategic way that doesn't compromise the mission and witness of the church. If Christians become associated with slave rebellions, they are compromised. The Christian transformation of the Roman household had to be implemented strategically so that their neighbors could be persuaded and not repulsed by this new vision of God's family. Finally, Paul closes the letter by calling Timothy again to confront the corrupt leaders. Paul here exposes their motives to make lots of money by accumulating followers and then charging them all high rates for their teaching. These teachers betray Jesus and his message of contentment and simple living. And so Paul instructs the wealthy Ephesian Christians to become rich in good works and generosity, to be people who submit all of their resources to King Jesus, and he's the one who inspires the final poem about how he is the true king above all other kings. First Timothy is a really important letter. It helps us gain a holistic vision of the nature and mission of the church. So what a Jesus community believes will directly shape how that community lives and behaves in its city. And so its theology, its beliefs have to be constantly critiqued and formed by the scriptures and the good news about Jesus. And how the church is perceived in public is also very important to Paul. Christians should be known as people who are full of integrity, known for good works, known for serving the poor and the most vulnerable, all out of devotion to the risen King Jesus. And that's what 1 Timothy is all about.
Paul wrote 1 Timothy to provide Timothy with practical guidance for his leadership role in the church at Ephesus. Timothy was a close companion and true son of the faith to Paul, and was a young leader who faced significant challenges in his ministry. Ephesus was a major cultural and religious hub, and the Christian community there was encountering deceitful, speculative teachings, including some that promoted a health and wealth or prosperity gospel. You will be healthy and you'll be wealthy if you follow God, and and God will approve of you and show you by making you wealthy. Also, the corrupted teachers made rules for living that were not based on commandments of Jesus. Some think that some of those rules might have been that, well, you shouldn't eat meat. Now, Jesus never really taught people you can't eat meat. Never taught them that that was a law. But these people, these teachers, did teach laws like that weren't Jesus's laws. Also, they wanted to wanted to force people into following because they wanted to be paid for teaching what they taught. And the more followers they had who were paying, the richer the teachers got. So also the corrupted teachers were doing this for their own gain. These teachers were also spreading the idea that a person's spirituality and godliness could be measured by their financial success. So the more financially successful you were, then that's how I know that you have been very godly. And that's what the teachers were teaching. And Paul warned Timothy that those who are eager to get rich fall into temptation and ruin. And that's where we get that line that if you have this love of money, that's the root of all evil. And it's not the money that is the root of evil; it is the love of money that becomes the root of evil. So Paul warned Timothy about the teachers who equated the spirituality and godliness to their social power and their status or standing, and relating that to their salvation. Paul emphasized that godliness with contentment is great gain. Being content with the very few rules that Jesus did give was a great gift and an accomplishment in its own way. The few rules that Paul was trying to emphasize were things that we would call like the golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Love God and your neighbor, to forgive. The simple teachings of the Sermon on the Mount, for instance. It is the simple Jesus rules that we may find with those we can find great satisfaction, joy, hope, love, and peace, and experience an even greater community and love. However, changing from the human rules to the Jesus rules is not always simple or easy. In fact, according to Brian McLaren, there are 4 stages of transition from focus on human rules to Jesus rules. The first phase is simplicity. In this phase, we tend to make things a simple 1 or 0, black or white, binary decision. And when things are that easy, boy, you just wake up every morning and you don't have to do a whole bunch of thinking. You already know. You have the 1s and the 0s in order. The next phase of this, though, comes with complexity. In this phase, we realize that there are very prosperous people who we know are not acceptable by God's standards, or people who we know who are impoverished, yet we know that they are undoubtedly acceptable and have God's favor. So complexity starts to enter in when we can't just abide by the 1s and 0s binary, everything is good or bad. The next phase is perplexity. After complexity, we become perplexed. And in this phase, we do not understand, and sometimes we truly doubt if wealth and power or influence are any kind of indication of God's favor at all. And sometimes we want to give up on seeking God's favor. And finally, we can achieve a state of harmony. In the state of harmony, in this phase, we start to realize that Jesus teaches us to behave with goodness to neighbors because it is for the good of bringing about God's kingdom on earth. We are charged to bring about this kingdom on earth. We are told the kingdom on earth is at hand. We are told the kingdom is a gift from God that God graciously, happily gives us, and that it is among you. It is now that we understand and start to understand the wealth and power of community and community love according to Jesus's commands. Paul was telling Timothy, these are the things you need to teach the people in Ephesus so that they don't sit there and say, oh, I can't eat meat because so-and-so says I can't eat meat. Oh, I can't this or I can't that because so-and-so says I can't this or I can't that. Paul explained the danger of the false teachers and the false teachings. But Paul went on to say that there is an upside. There is a positive potential, and that is to embrace the potential of a greater future in God's kingdom on earth. God's kingdom on earth won't look like man's kingdom on earth. God's kingdom on earth will look different and it'll feel different, and we will be causing it to be apparent to other people. Paul gave some very rational instructions to help the people of Ephesus have a better life today, not when they die, but today. Prosperity gospel, law-based salvation, belief-based salvation, social status-based salvation, all were false. All were false. Following the laws of Jesus is the way. And that's why they were called followers of the way. Paul gave instructions to the richer members of the church, and instead of condemning wealth itself, Paul tells Timothy to command that the wealthy exhibit certain actions. Don't be arrogant. That's important. To put their hope in uncertain riches. You may be rich today and you may be brought down tomorrow. So don't be arrogant. Put your hope in God, who provides everything for true fulfillment. And do good be rich in good works, and be generous and willing to share. Paul's instruction defines that true life is found in eternal, not earthly values, in eternal and not earthly treasures. True life is found in Jesus' way. To the less than richer people, Paul advises living up to the standards that we would call the golden rule. We in our congregation have the behavioral bingo that we use to emphasize the value of the enduring principles. And those principles can be the principles that help us see the way. It seems that the simplicity of the theme is tricky. There is a sophistication for some simple themes, and this has that sophistication. It raises the question, what is life that is life? Do you have this life? Do you want this life? Do you give this life to others? An intriguing part of the phrase life that is life, which comes from 1 Timothy 6:19, is that it presents an alternative, a different existence, an authentic existence that contrasts with the temporary and fleeting nature of worldly life. It redefines what it means to be truly alive. If it is different, then you give up or lose some of the things that are of human value, not eternal value. And giving those things up in place of eternal values is the benefit that you get. You can't have both. You can't have eternal wealth and human wealth. Now, it doesn't mean you can't have money, that you can't be secure. It's the human wealth is that which is measured by human values, not by eternal values. Our enduring principles remind us the gospel is expressed best in community life, where people become vulnerable to God's grace and to each other. True community includes compassion for and solidarity with the poor, the marginalized, and the oppressed, and upholds the worth of persons while providing a healthy alternative to self-centeredness, isolation, and conformity. Sacred community provides nurturing and growth opportunities for all people, especially those who cannot fully care for themselves, who might need our help in caring for themselves. We value our connections to each other and share a strong sense of trust in and belonging with one another. Even if we've never met, we can trust each other. We are called to create communities of Christ's peace in our families, our congregations, across villages, tribes, nations, and throughout all creation.